Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so spoiler season rages on, and we've got some more exciting spoilers for you, including the return of a legendary character with an exciting new build potential. Let's jump into it first, though, with this evil panda. Fiendish Panda. Thank you, MTG Goldfish, for the translated version of this. I saw some people calling it Pandemonium ahead of time, and I was hoping that was the name. Unfortunately, looks like it might not be the name. That being said, a 3/2 Demon Bear, because that's a thing, for 4 mana in Orzhov. Whenever you gain life, put a counter on this creature. When this creature dies, return another target non-bear creature with mana value less than or equal to this creature's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, here's the thing. Bear tribal typically isn't in these colors. Usually, I would say, like, okay, yeah, I'm sure there are those out you that have, a Morophon bear tribal deck, and that's great. That being said, most of the time, you're not going to worry about, like, oh no, I can't bring back a bear with this. There's very few times you're going to run into that. Keep in mind, changelings count for that as well. That being said, yeah, even just, again, less than or equal to this creature's power, that's 3 power right there. Even at 3 on a reanimation on Death Trigger, that can be very good and potentially broken. I mean, I'm pretty sure, let me know in the comments below, but off the top of my head, I believe Karmic Guide's power is 2. So there's a combo there with a free sacrifice outlet. That being said, of course, that is I really like the design of this card. Like, the gain life thing is adjustable, obviously. The power is adjustable by gaining life. It's based off of instances of life gain, not off of, like, big bursty life gain spells, so do keep that in mind. Say a life gain strategy, you could consider this too, because at a certain point, very, very quickly, most likely, essentially, this could be a very big creature, and then also when it dies, get back anything out of your graveyard. Any giant, massive creature out of your graveyard right to the battlefield. It's a cool card. So again, although it does seem, pretty like, oh yeah, hey, whatever, a reanimating bear, demon bear, yeah, it is actually a power potential type card because, yeah, it can hit really hard in life gain, but more importantly, it's got combo potential when it comes to reanimation. Next up, Drake Hatcher, a 1/3 human wizard for 2 mana in blue. Vigilance Prowess. Whenever this creature deals combo damage to a player, put that many incubation counters on it. Remove 3 incubation counters from it. Create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Now, this is a very interesting card. Number 1, again, Phyrexian fans out there, incubation not being Phyrexians, oh darn. That being said, it's still a very cool card. Again, a 1/3 Vigilant Prowess. So you can just keep swinging with it and be like, yeah, opponent, you want to block? And they're going to be like, do you have mana open? Yes. No. Because, I mean, obviously you could pump pretty quickly, obviously, if you need to, and you can keep back for blocking, which is nice. That being said, again, depending on its power is how many incubation counters you get. That being said, again, sometimes that doesn't even matter. You just need 1 incubation counter on this to really get this going for the right strategy out there, because I do think Proliferate decks will love a card like this. At least the right kind of Proliferate decks will like a card like this. This is a way to very easily make a ton. I'm talking about tall ran levels of flyers out there. On top of that, Power Matters Stripe strategies want to use this as well when it comes to ones that can effectively pump the entire team. Ones that are like, hey, yeah, all the creatures get power equal to the greatest, creature, whatever, that kind of stuff. Or just a bunch of anthems in play, because essentially, again, when you're hitting, you are making a bunch of counters on this. And when you do so, because it's that many, it's not just one, when you do so, well, again, you make an army, and that army, again, is pumped by whatever anthems or other things that you have. So, yeah, this can work for a couple different type strategies out there, including, of course, Spellslinger type strategies, too. So, yeah, a very, very cool design. A lot going on with this one, but I really like the design. Moving on, Strongbox Raider, a 5/2 Orc Pirate for 4 mana in red. Raid. When this creature enters, if you attack this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. This is more so a limited card, I would say. I mean, very specific raid decks that have been waiting for more raid cards. Sure. Or maybe ones that really care about playing things from exile. That being said, there's a lot better ways to play things from exile. It's still nice that you at least get to pick out the top 2 to get 1. I'm not trying to undersell this, but, like, there's a lot going on. Maybe, okay, here we go. Specifically, if you have this, let me know in the comments below. If you have a blink deck that also really cares about impulse draw, there you go. That's the space for this one. Make sure you're considering it. I mean, it's not a terrible card at all. Again, getting one of the top two to temporarily be able to use again until the end of your next turn, that's nice. That being said, there's better ETBs out there when it comes to permanent card draw, and also better impulse draw type cards too. And yeah, it's sure, I guess Orc Tribal, Pirate Tribal, consider it as well, maybe. Let's move on. Dragon Trainer, a 1/1 human for 5 mana and red. When this creature enters, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. This is, I mean, solid. If you've got like an ETB type deck, a strategy where you're using and abusing ETBs, it's a really good one to use and abuse. It is a 5 mana creature though, for, you know, a 1/1. That being said, if you can keep blinking it, then yeah, you get a lot of dragons in play. And I do say blinking it like there's other ways, you know, like Feign Death type effects. If it dies, comes back, etc., etc., etc. That being said, yeah, for its cost, it's probably a bit too high. I highly doubt dragon decks out there are going to be considering this one. It's also not a dragon itself, obviously. Yeah, maybe like a Populate type deck could consider it too. But yeah, if you've got a blink deck and you're like, I've always wanted to make 4/4 dragons, congratulations, here you go. Next up, Icewood Elemental, a 3/4 elemental with flying for 5 mana in blue. When this creature enters, draw a card, then discard a card. There are better ETBs out there. This is more of a limited card. I mean, we've got like, you know, at what, 7 mana, we've got one that like draws you 3, another one that draws you 2. So yeah, Muldrifter draws you 2 as well. So yeah, like we've got other ways to draw more cards. This is a looting effect. Yeah, skip it. Okay, next up, Soulstone Sanctuary. This is one where you need to be careful, and I definitely would have been guilty of this if I had not read, you know, this one online like really quick, while I saw people like reacting to it, like, oh wait, that's a good point, and I would have made a mistake on this one, but here I am, hopefully not making a mistake on this one. Here we go, a land, Soulstone Sanctuary, that can tap Raycalis, pay 4. This land becomes a 3/3 creature with vigilance, and all creature types, it's still a land. Nowhere on this card does it say until end of turn. Usually they say until end of turn. No, you are permanently making this land into a 3/3 creature, which, you know, if you're a newer player, you might be like, that's great, perfect, because, yeah, I mean, like, I don't have to pay for it multiple times to make it into a creature. What's not great about it is that, yeah, most creature lands, what makes them very good is that they dodge basically any board wipe, because players typically, well, at least, you know, in Commander, not in CDH, essentially, you are not playing mass board wipes for lands. So, yeah, it survives those. That being said, creatures definitely don't survive board wipes, like ever. Wrath of God takes out this land that is a creature, because again, once you activate it, it is a permanent creature. So, Mutavault, this is not. This is not a 3/3, you know, Vigilant Mutavault. It's kind of similar, but it also doesn't dodge things like Mutavault does. That being said, are there decks that are going to want to utilize this? Sure. I mean, again, the fact that it is basically a changeling land is very good, is very cool. And yeah, if you've got like a Lord's Tribal deck and it is, you know, probably 3 or less colors, again, you have to like really pick and choose like utility lands like this one when you're utilizing, yeah, a you know, massive color swap like 5 colors. But yeah, it could also just be like in an all creature lands deck too. So there you go, Child of Alara decks out there. That being said, again, yeah, Child of Alara itself would destroy this. So, yeah, it's, oh wait, no, does Child of Alara, it's all non-land? Never mind, it might survive that. Regardless, it's still a land, but that being said, again, basically any Wrath of God board wipe will take this out once you activate it, so be careful. Don't be the player that makes the mistake of thinking that it turns back into just a land. It does not. There you go. Moving on. Twin Blade Blessing. This is a spicy card. Enchantment Aura for 3 mana and white. Flash, enchant creature. Enchant creature is double strike. Surprise double strike is quite fun. What is it? Oh my gosh. Okay, off the top of my head, is it Sword Mastery? Is that the name of, you know, just regular enchantment aura for 3 mana and white double strike? Something like that. Anyways, this is just strictly better. Obviously, it is slightly harder to cast, having the extra pip in there, but still, yeah, I'll take Flash, Double Strike, any day of the week when it comes to this kind of stuff, because in a way, again, the downside to auras is that, well, they're, you know, a 2-for-1. If your creature's removed, they're just gone. Having flash gives it a little more versatility where it's like, okay, I can, wait until right before my turn to flash this in, utilize my mana in other ways if I need to, or if my creature gets through in combat and they're like, well, I can take 11 commander damage, that's fine, I'll be completely fine, and oh my goodness, and then you flash this in and then all of a sudden they're gone because your commander now has double strike and it takes them out. So surprise double strike can be a very powerful thing if used correctly. Obviously, this one would more so see play in, like, Aura's decks out there, obviously, Enchantress decks. Yeah, that kind of deck. So there you go. Moving on, though, Kiora the Rising Tide. Kiora is back. Oh my goodness, a very cool commander. No longer a Planeswalker and no longer with green. There you go. 3/2 Merfolk Noble for 2 and a blue. When Kiora enters, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. On top of that, Threshold. I love Threshold. Maybe just because back in the day I started playing right when Threshold came out and was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, graveyard. Anyways, whenever Kiora attacks, if there are 7 more cards in your graveyard, you may create Scion of the Deep, a legendary 8/8 blue octopus creature token. Yes, the limitation on this is that obviously that is legendary. That being said, and I forgot to add this in my quick take card, so my apologies for this right now, but hey, there are ways to, say like, hey, the legendary rule doesn't matter, like Mirror Box. So yeah, utilizing that could be great with this. You can have multiple Scion of the Deep, and it's like, oh, you're here too? Okay, we're both staying. All right, great, cool. Yes, so this is a commander where you can definitely build around that 8/8 octopus 100%. Now, you do have to send your commander into danger to do so, and you have to get to Threshold, which is not hard to do because, hint, hint, wink, wink, we're going to really use and abuse that ETB, and we're in blue, and we've got so many ways to use and abuse it, like blank effects, absolutely. So do that again, and again, and again, and again, and all of a sudden, yes, when the Kiora attacks, you're like, yep, I get an 8/8. Keep in mind, it is not like it's tapped and attacking, it's just like, oh, Kiora's swinging. Oh no, Kiora's getting taken on combat, and I'm just standing here. Oh my goodness. But yeah, being able to make an 8/8 is quite nice. You can do this pretty early with this one. So yeah, you could really dominate the board quite early in a game of Commander. That being said, the way that I would build around this, yeah, sure, I'd take advantage of having the 8/8. I probably wouldn't build completely around it, though. I mean, maybe like a Dragon Throne of Tarkir to like pump all your creatures or whatnot. Sure. That being said, we're not in green. We don't have so many ways to like take advantage of like greatest power among creatures you control, or fling effects or whatever, that kind of stuff. There are some ways to take advantage of power, but what you can take advantage of again is that draw 2, discard 2. You can get a ton of value out of that. Now, that isn't technically card advantage, right? That is card selection. That being said, there are ways to turn it into card advantage, ways to turn certain parts of it into temporary card advantage as well, ways to really use and abuse this ETB, and a great ETB it is. And yeah, I'm excited to build around this one. Let's jump into some cards that work well with it. If you're interested in these cards, check them out in the card list link in the description below. First up, let's talk about artifacts, and just pretend that I included Mirror Box on here, okay? My apologies. Anyways, Bag of Holding. Artifact for a single mana. Whenever you discard a card, exile a card from your graveyard, pay 2 tap, draw a card, discard a card, pay 4 tap, sacrifice this, return all cards exile with it to their hand. This is just like, okay, store up all of those cards that I am looting. Again, like double looting basically with this commander. Again, draw 2, discard 2. Cool, normally you're just net the exact same amount of cards. But with this essentially in play, you're like, okay, temporarily I am net the same amount of cards. I also got rid of whatever dead cards in my hand. But if I didn't get rid of, potentially dead cards that I could utilize later, then cool. I can pop this at a certain point and all of a sudden get an absurd number of cards back in my hand thanks to my commander. Speaking of absurd, Conjurer's Closet. This price, they reprint it and then it goes down to like $5 and it keeps going right back up to 10 and then it gets reprinted. Regardless, it's a very good card in Commander because there's a lot of commanders that have good ETBs and you want to use and abuse them. So there you go. Artifact for 5. Basically, blink something, get your end step, blink your commander, get a free double loot effect. What's not to love about that? Next up, Containment Construct. Now, this one is very similar-ish to our Bag of Holding. At least it kind of uses around the same, ability-ish. 2/1 Construct for 2. When you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play a card this turn. It fulfills the same role in a way. Essentially, though, you need to use or lose those cards that you're discarding. But yeah, you actually get like a second chance at using them with this, which can be absolutely great. Keep in mind, it does say play, so you can utilize lands from those discards too. So save your land drops for that. Chasm Skulker, though, we can also take advantage of drawing cards as well. And this can be a big theme of the deck. Again, ways to take advantage of drawing, ways to take advantage of discarding, and sure, every now and then creating a giant octopus and saying, you go do my dirty work for me. Chasm Skulker, speaking of octopus, actually this is a squid. Anyways, a 1/1, whenever you draw a card, put a counter on this. So this can go massive in absolutely no time. Again, every single ETB from your commander equals 2 counters on this, which when this dies equals 2 squids. And make X 1/1 squid creature tokens. Island Walk corrects the number of counters on this. So sure, if your opponent is playing blue as well, they're going to be in trouble because you're going to have a massive army of unblockable creatures. Kiora Mystery, speaking of unblockable, well, not really unblockable. It's got flying. Yeah, you can get through on some players. A 4/4 flyer, whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1. This is huge because now you're getting free card selection on top of the card selection you already get with your commander. Again, ETB, draw 2, discard 2. Now you get to scry 1 twice. Do so and set the top of your library. That way, next time you draw 2, discard 2, you have better cards you're drawing into, and then again, you get to set again. This is a very good card at curating the top of your list. Hence the name, Curative Mysteries. There you go. Displacer Kitten, expensive, always going to be expensive. Broken card. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets up to 1 target non-land permanent you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Basically, you cast a non-creature spell, you blink something. So blink your commander. Literally any spell you cast that is non-creature, blink your commander, draw 2, discard 2. Just basically like print loot, double loot on every single one of your non-creature spells thanks to this. Vast Deep Dwelling. Hey, do you want an extra, Conjurer's Closet that's indestructible? Congratulations, you have that. Also, sometimes it's 6/5 and, can smack your opponents. That's nice too. But basically, again, this is just an extra Conjurer's Closet, extra free blink. What's not to love about that? And you can tap down creatures for fun. What's not to love? Psychosis Crawler, again, with all this card draw. It does not matter that you are not keeping the cards in your hand. Well, it kind of does. I mean, for one part of the card, which is nice, like, it's power times each one of the cards in your hand. That's nice. It can get quite large. We don't really care that much about that. We care about draining our opponents. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. Literally every single ETB equals drain each opponent 2. In total, drain 6 life. That is a lot and adds up throughout the game. All-Seeing Arbiters, speaking of adding up, a 5/4 avatar with flying enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2, discard a card. This is another card that you can use and abuse now. Again, keep in mind that you already have built the deck around your commander, and your commander has that awesome ETB. And of course, blinking your commander is a great way to protect it in many situations too. That being said, you get this in play and you're like, maybe I'll blink this one because this one actually has me draw 2, only discard 1. And also on top of that, whenever you discard a card, target creature opponent controls gets -X, -0 until your next turn. Rex the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard. So actually, there are going to be times when you're like, you know what? I don't really care about going up on card advantage with this too much right now, so I'm actually going to blink my commander because I want to discard 2 cards so I get that trigger twice and then really shrink down 2 of my opponent's creatures. So do keep that in mind. Deadeye Navigator, of course. This is a combo card. I mean, Peregrine Drake, etc., etc., etc. That being said, still a great card to work with this commander as well. A 5/5 Soul Bond. When it's Soul Bond with another creature, basically you can pay 2 mana in total and blink that creature. And yeah, paying 2 mana to draw 2, discard 2 on repeat is quite nice. Ominous Seas. Your, octopus friend needs another octopus friend. Although this is a Kraken more so. But regardless, enchant for 2 mana and blue. Whenever you draw a card, get a 4 shadow counter on it. Remove 8 counters from it, which does not take much time at all with a commander like this. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token. Yeah, you can just kind of store up all those counters and then you just wait, to be like, okay, I'll make, 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 Krakens out of nowhere. On top of the legendary one I already have, and I have just a massive army of giant sea beasts that have come to decimate the world. Yes, what's not to love? Drake Haven, speaking of, absolutely a great card for this deck. Enchant for 3 mana. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you can pay 1. If you do, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature with flying. 1 mana for a 2/2 flyer is not bad at all. And again, every single time your commander ETBs, pay 2, make 4 power worth of flyers on the board for 2 bodies. You know what I mean? Speaking of flying, though, Levitation. Creatures you control flying. This can help out in a lot of ways. Number 1, your commander is a 3/2. Not going to survive in combat very much, except for maybe very, very, very early on in the game when no one has blockers. That being said, later on, yeah, you're going to want to be able to get your commander through because you want that attack trigger sometimes, and you don't want to just have to keep recasting your commander. So give it flying. It's usually good enough to get through on at least one opponent. Therefore, you have a, safe way to swing. On top of that, again, with that giant sea monster that you are making, and maybe some other ones that you're making too, get those lovely creatures through as well on your opponent's faces. Next up, Teferi's AGs Insight. This Thought Reflection cards like this are huge for this commander. Legendary enchantment for 4 mana in blue. If you draw a card except the first one you draw on each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. Doubling up your card draw is massive with this commander. Let me say that again. Doubling up your card draw with this commander is massive. I think I've said that in the wrong order. But anyways, basically now, every single time your commander ETBs, you draw 4, but you're only discarding 2 now. So you're going up 2 cards. Again, like I've said the entire time, you are not getting card advantage out of this commander. Now you actually are. You're literally getting awesome amounts of card advantage off of this commander. Again, draw 4, get rid of 2 crap cards out of your hand. That's amazing. So yeah, this Thought Reflection, etc., etc., etc. The more ways you can take advantage of that, do so. Essence Flux, just an example of a simple card. Wizards, reprint this. Please, reprint it into the dirt. Exile target creature control, bring it back to the battlefield. Arnstone's control, instant for a single blue mana. Yeah, being able to blink your commander. There's plenty of blink effects in blue. For some reason, there's like only 1 at 1 mana instant speed. White has all the other ones at instant speed for 1 mana. There's a lot at 2. That being said, Wizards, reprint this into the dirt, please. Thank you. 1 mana, draw 2, discard 2. What's not to love? Next up, Deep Analysis. Keep in mind, you can also include cards in this deck that you actually want in your graveyard. Being like, you know what? I don't really feel like paying 4 mana for this. I mean, that's not great for 4 mana, right? I mean, overall, like the whole card, like if you do the whole thing, yeah, sure, that's worth it. That being said, what's much better is Flashback for 2 mana, pay 3 life. Yeah, you're in Commander, right? Life is a resource, you use it, right? That's less than 1/10 of your life total. Who cares? 2 mana, draw 2 cards. What's not to love about that? So yeah, there's a lot of things to love about this commander and a lot of cool things that you can do with it. Now, one other commander that I've already talked about in another episode, but wanted to do a quick take on because, well, this is a spicy commander, number 1. And number 2, there is something that I completely missed about this commander the first time. And when I was searching, I was like, that can't be right. Scryfall isn't working. It's Scryfall's fault, not mine. No, it was definitely my fault. So we've got Trufus Sprout, Sire, which is a really cool name. A 1/1 sapling with trample for 3 mana in green. Whenever a sapling you control deals counter to a player, create that many 1/1 green sapling creature tokens. Here's one of the things I missed on this one. Yeah, this is a sapling itself. And at first I was just like, yeah, saplings have been in Magic for a long, long time. Sapling creature tokens have been in Magic for a long, long time. This is the very first sapling creature. And for all you out there commenting right now, like, ha, changelings, stop it. Stop it. This is special, okay? Very first sapling ever. Okay, yes, I know changelings are technically every creature. And, like, whenever I'm like, we've never had a tribal commander for this, someone's like, Morathon. It's like, okay, I know Morathon is that, okay, but still, okay. All right. Sapling commander, amazing. All right, you get this thing out, you get a lot of power on it, and again, you create that many when you hit a player. And also, when your other saplings are hitting, you also get that many too. So you just make an absurd amount of saplings. I hope you like math. I hope you like keeping track of your entire board state because it's going to get obnoxious. Let's jump into some cards that work well with it. Black Blader Forge, of course. You are in green. Green equals ramp. Green equals lands in play. Lands equal play equals Black Blader Forge. Pumps your commander for a ton. Helps you hit your opponents because it's got trample. And all of a sudden you are making an absurd amount of saplings, which then, of course, will help you hit your opponents. But let's just say your opponents are being really mean. And, they've got some blockers for your little saplings. You're like, I don't like that. Bow of Nylea. Legendary enchantment artifact for 3 mana in green. I forget what the activated ability does because that does not matter on this card. I mean, it's nice, but it does not matter on this card. What matters literally is attacking creatures control of Death Touch. That is huge. Basically, now your opponents have a decision to make. Hey, your big 5/5 in play you're about to block with on my little 1/1? Is that worth it for you? You want to lose your 5/5? Or are you going to let me get through with my little saplings and all of a sudden I get an army out of them and I just double up that army and then they have Death Touch too and then all of a sudden you're in big trouble. So your opponents are in a no-win situation when you've got this in play and an army of saplings that you keep swinging out with. I will read the rest of it just as a reminder. You can pay 2 and tap, put a counter target creature, 2 damage target creature with flying, gain 3 life, put 4 cards graveyard on the bottom of the library in any order. I never would have gotten all that just off the top of my head, just to let you know. Next up, Maskwood Nexus. Here's the thing. Again, I completely forgot that we have never seen an actual creature that is a sapling outside of changelings. So here's the thing. We're going to have other creatures in this deck, right? Let's make them all into Saplings. Creature control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells. You control and creature cards you own that are on the battlefield. And you can also pay 3 to tap, make a 2/2 shapeshifter with Changeling. Basically, this says everything you own is a Changeling that is a creature. This is a great card. I love Masquerade Nexus. It's a really cool card. Make a commander that's this exact same thing. Thank you. Anyways, 5 color. Thanks, Wizards. Okay, but now everyone is a Sapling means that whenever they're dealing combat damage to players, now we get more Saplings because they're technically Saplings. Yes, Masked Vandal's already technically a Sapling. It is a Changeling. Okay, I understand. It's a 1/3/4/2 shapeshifter with Changeling. Enters the battlefield and may exile creature card from your graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment opponent controls. Obviously, if you've got Changelings that are effective with this kind of a deck, use them. You don't just chuck every Changeling you can find into the deck, though. I mean, maybe you can go for that, but that's not my strategy. My strategy would be something like Spore Crown Thallid, a 2/2 fungus for 2 mana. Each other creature you control, it's a fungus or sapling, gets ++1. One pump effect, might not seem like a lot, but this can make a massive difference. Again, let's say that we are getting through with our entire army. Okay, let's just say that. We say one of our opponents is just wide open, and we're like, cool. We got 5 Saplings, including our commander, which is still just a 1/1, let's say. Instead of hitting for 5 and making 5 Saplings, we are hitting for 10 and making 10 Saplings. And then all of a sudden, we've got 15 Saplings that are 2/2s, and that's 30 power. So next turn, we hit for 30. And you see where this is going. Exponential growth. Lovely. So yeah, again, even just a tiny little pump effect can make a massive difference. Next up, Bright Cap Badger. First up, we can Fungus Frolic. That's a cool name for the adventure. 3 mana, it's in speed. Create 2 1/1 Saplings. Again, just starting off tiny with a little amount of Saplings can be great and just build really quickly. That being said, when it's in play though, at the beginning of round step, you make a 1/1 Sapling. That's lovely. And on top of that, every single fungus and sapling we control can tap for a green. Do you understand how absurd that is to be able to be like, oh yeah, I made a giant army of saplings, and by the way, they're going to help me spend all this mana for all these other spells. Yeah, it's basically Cryptolith Right, which you probably already want to have in the deck as well if you have the budget for that one, because that's always going to be decently expensive outside of my budget. Ivy Lane Denizen, very, very budget friendly though for me. 10 cents, 2/3 elf warrior for 4 mana in green. Whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under control, put a counter on target creature. This gets out of control in no time at all. Literally. Okay. All those saplings coming into play. Let's say you hit again for 10, right? Cool. All right. Now we could spread those counters out, and that might be an effective way to do it. Or we can just be like, my commander's got trample. Take 10 counters, commander. All of a sudden, it makes it easier for that commander to get through, number 1. Number 2, commander damage becomes very much a thing with that. And again, it literally doesn't matter how many of our saplings are hitting or who they're hitting. All that matters is the total amount of damage they're all doing to players. So they're all working together, and our commander getting all those counters can be a very good thing. Next up, we have a worm that can help our saplings too. Bellowing Tangleworm. It's a 4/4 with Intimidate. Other green creatures control of Intimidate. Again, those saplings, they are green. They have Intimidate, and Intimidate means they can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and creatures that share a color with it. So all of a sudden, the opponent that doesn't have any green creatures or artifact creatures is going to be very, very scared. And that might be 2 opponents. It might be all 3 opponents. They might just be all in trouble, and basically our entire army is unblockable, which is quite mean. Next up, Orin Frostfang. Speaking of mean, 2/6 snake for 5 mana in green. Attacking creature control of Death Touch. Where have we heard that before? Bow of Nylea, of course. All the reasons I mentioned for that being good, this is also good. Which actually, one I forgot, our commander has trample. Keep that in mind. Only needing to assign 1 point of combat damage, something to take it out, means the rest of the damage tramples through, which is huge. That being said, on top of that, whenever a creature you control deals combat to a player, draw a card. Now, be careful with this, because this is the type of commander that can get so out of control that you're like, I've got 50 saplings on the board and I'm swinging, yeah! And then they hit, and then you're like, I just drew 50 cards! Oh gosh, I've got 10 cards left in my deck. I can't do that again. So yeah, you need to be careful, because you could draw yourself out with this, or just, mill yourself and lose, because that's not a May trigger. But yeah, it's going to be good for the most part. Where you're just like, draw an absurd amount of cards, and then slow yourself down when you need to. Spore Mound, of course, very simple, very effective. A 3/3 fungus. Whenever a land is battlefield under control, make a 1/1 sapling. Again, you're in green. You're going to be getting a ton of lands into play. Make a sapling army with this. Also, Tendershoot Dryad. My goodness. Oh my. Probably the golden pig for this kind of a commander. A 2/2 Dryad with Ascend. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. That's each upkeep, not just your own. Don't make the mistake that I did at a pre-release event where I was playing one-on-one against a player, and then after the game, they're like, by the way, you should have gotten one of those creatures at every upkeep. Read the card. I was only putting on my upkeep. But yeah, every single upkeep, which means that each trip around the table, you get 4 of them. That's huge. By the way, the City's Blessing is so easy to get to in Commander, especially when you have this in play. Saplings you control get +2/+2 as long as you City's Blessing. This is huge. Again, I already mentioned as to why it is massive. Any kind of a pump effect for your saplings is massive. This makes you an absurd amount throughout the game, and also pumps your saplings, so when you're hitting, you make even more. And then those saplings make even more, 3 times as much as they usually make. You can get pretty crazy with that. Next up, Verdolf the Ancient. Again, another great pump effect for your team. A 4/7 Tree Folk with 6 mana, pumps your saplings and Tree Folk, sure, +1/+1. On top of that, though, if you kicked it, and again, you're in green, you've got mana to spend, do it. Make X 1/1 saplings so you can get yourself started with this. Next up, though, Fungal Plots. This is where things just get crazy. Enchantment for 2 mana in green, pay the exact same amount, exile a creature card from your graveyard, make a 1/1 sapling. That's nice. That being said, sacrifice 2 saplings, you gain 2 life, draw a card. Keep in mind, there is no cost associated with that. I mean, outside of sacrificing, you don't have to pay any mana. You don't have to, like, tap this. I mean, you don't really tap enchantments typically. I think there's, like, one out there that does. It's a really weird aura enchantment. Regardless, and creature enchantments don't count with this example, okay? That being said, yeah, you just sacrifice 2 saplings. Sure, you gain 2 life, draw a card. Literally, if an opponent casts a board wipe, you're like, oh, okay, I guess you just wrath the board, but, I'll sacrifice my 20 saplings, I guess, and gain, yeah, I guess, 20 life and draw 10 cards. Cool. Thank you. So, yeah, a great way to draw cards when you need them. And again, you're having ample supply of saplings. Have fun with that. Speaking of fun, again, I mentioned a couple of other, like, specific Anthem effects. Just a straight-up Beastmaster Ascension is absurd with this commander. Enchantment for 3 mana in green. Whenever a creature control attacks, put a quest counter on this. As long as it's got 7 more quest counters on it, creature control at +5/+5. Again, just literally each one of your saplings, whenever it connects to a player, making 6 saplings is crazy. And again, normally they'd be 1/1s, which is nice, but now they're 6/6s as well. And all of a sudden, it's 36 power whenever one of your saplings connects. On top of the fact that, again, this pumps your commander, which is quite nice. Of course, I just have to say this because if not, I get yelled at in the comments. Like, what about doubling season? Yes, doubling season is good with commanders that double up, that you make tokens with. So there you go. Yeah, you double up your tokens. Congratulations, double your saplings. That's great. This, parallel lives, etc., etc., etc. That's good. On top of that, if you've got any ways to get counters on your things, this doubles that up too. So sure, that's another way you can pump things as well. Speaking of pumping, though, Raised by Giants. Very simple, very effective, very straightforward. Legendary enchantment background for 6 mana in green. Commander creatures you own have base power and type as 10/10 or giants of other types. So now your commander is a giant sapling, and it is a 10/10. That is a permanent +9/+9. So that means, hey, even if you had maybe some equipment on your commander or whatnot, or you had like counters on your commander and it got dealt with, oh no, I've got to rebuild. Okay, I guess I get my commander back out, which again, your commander is pretty low to the ground, pretty easy to get back out. You get it back on, you're like, well, my commander is already at 10/10, so I'm good to go and swing at you and then make more saplings. Have fun. Next up, speaking of fun, Tribal Unity. Out of nowhere, instant speed, X2 in a green. Creatures of the creature type of your choice get +X/+X until end turn. A just out of nowhere giant pump effect for you. Again, you're in green. You've got money to spend. I mean, you've got mana to spend. That's the word, right? I mean, yeah, you just got that mana to spend in the game. And all of a sudden, you just dump a ton of mana into this. And then you're like, by the way, you didn't block these creatures, right? Well, yeah, I can take a couple of damage from those little saplings. And you're like, okay, they each get +10/+10. I'm making an absurd amount of saplings. Oh no! And you take players out of this as well. Second harvest, out of nowhere, doubling up your entire army. That is huge. Instant for 4 mana in green. For each token you control, put a token battlefield. That's a copy of that permanent. A gross. Speaking of which, a gross sapling symbiosis for just 23 cents. Lovely. Sorcerer 4 mana. You can also flash this in for an extra 2 mana if you want to. Cool. If not, that's fine. Create a 1/1 green sapling creature token for each creature you control. Here's the thing. All your creatures are probably saplings. I mean, they're not saplings. But anyways, you care about making saplings is more so what I mean. So again, you just have like 20 creatures on the board. Cool. You just make 20 more saplings. Double up your army. Again, it can really help you out. And again, out of nowhere, pay the extra 2 mana. Sure, why not? Spontaneous Generation is another card you can take advantage of as well. Sorcerer 4 mana in green. Put a 1/1 green sapling creature token into play for each card in your hand. you got ways to take advantage of drawing cards. Again, we already talked about basically 2 of them. There's also, of course, other cards that are like, you know what? Maybe cast a Shamanic Revelation and draw a card for each creature you control. Cool. Don't really care about that life gain. Maybe you don't have big creatures. That's fine. What you do care about is, oh, okay, cool. I just drew a bunch of cards, and now all of a sudden I'm playing this, and I'm making an absurd amount of Saplings. Overrun, I mean, any kind of a pump effect as well. I talked about Anthems, which are great, but also just, hey, overrun, get some damage through. +3/+3 trample. It can be a way to win the game. It can be a way to really get your plan going. It's a great card, and yeah, sometimes the simplest, solution is the best one. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below with your thoughts on it, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.